following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
Hello. What's up, Downers? Welcome back to another great episode of the least comfortable show on the web. The System is Down. This is the place where we talk about all the uncomfortable topics, all the things that your family prays you don't bring up around the Thanksgiving dinner get-together, like conspiracies, politics, and religion, and all that fun stuff that would make your grandma get triggered if you brought it up around her. And if you're one of the many people that tune into the show every single Monday, thank you guys so much for coming back for your weekly dose of discomfort. And if you're new to the show, more importantly, go to the person who told you about it and just give them a big hug. Give them a hug from me because I really appreciate it. I appreciate you being here and I appreciate them sharing the word. And give them a hug from yourself because you're going to appreciate it because this is going to be a fun show. And I know that I say that pretty much every single time I intro these shows, but I enjoy them. I find them fun, and I think you're going to as well. I've been thinking about it. This show has been going on for just under a year now. When we started out, I had no idea what I was doing, no idea where it was going. I still probably don't, but I've just been pondering, and I don't know what my life is anymore. I mean, honestly, like I don't feel like I'm qualified to speak to any of the people, any of the guests that I've had on this show, and technically I'm not. I'm not a news anchor or anything. I didn't go to school for this. I'm a guy in a room that just happens to have a microphone, and because of that, I've had the honor and the pleasure of sharing so many people's stories that if I didn't start this podcast, if I lived the life in the direction that it was going before I started the podcast, if I'd rode that out to my death, I never would have talked to these people. So it's just kind of strange. For example, I have talked to an FBI negotiator. I've talked to one of the survivors from the Waco incident, a woman that was raped by Bill Clinton, the founder of the International Flat Earth Conference. I've talked to just a vast array of movie makers, musicians, podcasters, CEOs of companies, all sorts of people. I don't know why these people think I'm qualified to do this, because I'm not, but hopefully they enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you guys find it entertaining. Another thing that I've come to realize over the course of the creation of this podcast, and I suppose before, now that I'm older and wiser, I've gotten to the point where I start to realize that all the people, all the heroes, all the inspirations that you've had since childhood, they're really cool, but they're also just people like you with a different skill, a different set of abilities that makes you inspired by them. My guest today is a guy whose music I've been listening to for nearly half of my life, off and on. He's in a band called Emery that I've been listening to since high school. He also has a podcast called Bad Christian, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think that podcast was the very first podcast I ever listened to, and I've been listening to it ever since, and it definitely played some part in inspiring me to make this podcast. So I owe a lot to this man, and I was able to sit down and have a wonderful, fun conversation with him. We talked about the Christian entertainment industry, which we've covered on this show before, but it was nice to get the opinion of a guy who has been in all of that, in that swirling sphere and mess of Christian entertainment for a big part of my life. But yeah, it was a real fun conversation, and I'm completely stoked and honored to have been able to do it, and I'm proud of the show, where it is, to where we are able to have these great guests on, and that is all thanks to you guys who support the show, who share the show, and listen every single week. If you like what you hear and you'd like to get more of the show, you can join the Downers Club and support us financially for as little as $5 a month, and if you do, we put out 2 to 4 bonus episodes of the show every single week. We do movie reviews, we do news recaps. We do extended interviews whenever we can, and just a bunch of fun stuff. So if you'd like to support the show, if you'd like to get a bunch of extra content, you can do so by going to tsidpod.com/support. We also have a forum that you can join for completely free. It's currently on Facebook. Right now it is. I can't guarantee that it will be tomorrow or the next day because we get pretty controversial around here sometimes, and you know where the social media stuff is going. We're already seeming to get some threats to be removed. So you can search for it. The System is Down forum on Facebook right now and join. If it moves, you'll be able to still find it. We'll link it wherever we end up moving it to. You can find it through tsidpod.com/forum. All right, enough of the ads, enough of the rambling. Let's get into some more rambling. Here's my conversation that I had with the great Toby Morrell. All right, let's get weird. My guest today is musician, podcaster, entrepreneur, and, dare I say, at the risk of sounding like a fanboy noob, musical inspiration of mine since the age of 16, Toby Morrell. How's it going, man?
All right. How old are you now, Dan?
I am 30.
Okay. So, man, what's that? 14 years.
Yep. Honestly, I actually remember there's not too many bands that I can pinpoint where I first heard about them, but I remember specifically, definitively, the day I heard about Emery. I was flipping through HM Magazine, and I had a friend in high school named Emery, and I was like, oh, hey, this band's got your name. And good album artwork, good wordplay for the album title, so I was hooked before I heard a song.
That's funny that we've been around that long. I'm still always shocked when people say that. Like,
right.
People have fully come from teenage years and all their hopes and dreams ahead of them to now they're in adulthood and have careers and family. You have kids?
I have 2. Yep.
It's just wild. I'm still doing it. I'm working on a record right now.
How does it feel to know that you're influencing generations on generations, for better or for worse?
It's actually pretty neat. I would say, I think the thing about it for me is, like I said, I always thought, oh man, it'll be so cool to put out a record, or it'd be so cool to, tour around the world. And then you do it and you do it and you do it. And then same as me, I'm getting older. I ended up getting married, having kids. They're in school now and your life changes. So it's really neat that our band got to be a part of people's lives like that, because it got to be a part of my life, and it just like yours. I mean, you listened at 16. I'm not certain you probably still listen daily or monthly or yearly, but we're some part of your nostalgia and history, which I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Now, give me a little bit of background on you. Like, what was the early years of Toby Morrell before the band? Because you guys actually started a little bit later in life than most people do as a band. So what led up to that point?
Well, I always could sing. That was something that I could just always do. My mom is a singer, and I always thought, man, this is fun. And her voice and mine sometimes would, even like when we'd sing at church and stuff like that, really work well together. A little bit of that blood harmony kind of thing, just being family members, and our voices really melded well together. And so I just kept singing, and I would eventually get, solos in the choirs, and I would win, not awards, but I guess I would get the solos in like Allstate. I made it into Allstate. All the people came from all over the state, and I got a solo out of that. So I just always knew I could sing, and I even kind of got an ego, I would say, about it for a while, because I was always the best. I always got the solos. I knew the teacher would always ask me to do, even when I got to college. And then eventually I had to realize, wait a minute, there's so many other singers too. Why do I think I'm the best? Why do I?
And honestly, in high school, was the bar set too high?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, part of it was I always did really well with singing, and people always appreciated my voice and gave me compliments. And then part of it too was I just wanted to do something. I was always a little bit theatrical and, kind of dramatic and a comedian in a way. And so singing just was naturally, like I could do all the things I like doing, just being an entertainer, talking to a crowd, singing to a crowd, all those things. It just really led me there.
Absolutely. So the band got going. You guys you labeled yourselves as Christian band? Or did you intend to end up in that market, or did it just come with the territory?
It's funny. I think that we just didn't totally care. I figured we didn't, back then it wasn't as, it kind of got during our career a little bit more important to people. Are you Christians or in a band? Are you a Christian band? That whole distinction.
Right.
We always just were Christians. And so we figured our music was to, we definitely wanted to honor God with it, but also we were a little bit different because we weren't trying to, early on, we realized we couldn't play in churches and do church circuits, and that just wasn't us. And our music really, we wanted to talk about relationships and real stuff, and we didn't want to end every song with how great God was going to make it if we submitted to him. I remember, I've probably told this story before, so your listeners might have heard it, but I went to Charleston Southern University, which used to be a Baptist college, and it's still pretty much a Baptist college. They just changed the name. And just for a couple of years, a lot of my friends went there. And I can remember being a little bit of the different kid there, and everybody else was wanting to get into, CCM music, and I just never even listened to that stuff, and I just didn't care about it. And I was starting to write my own music, and the campus pastor, he called me into his office and said, "Hey, man, I want to talk to you." I was like, "Okay, cool." We played a show on campus, and we played, Seven Mary 3 covers. Who else did we play? I'm trying to remember, like Stone Temple Pilots, Smashing Pumpkins. We did all that. So I don't know if that worried him or what, and the crowd really liked it. We did pretty good. So he called me into his office and he said, "Hey, man, you're a cool kid. I really appreciate the way you see everything, and you probably can reach." That's the Christian world always goes immediately to who you're going to reach. He's like, "Man, I just want to sing some rock music. Let's not get to the reach and how many lives will be changed yet.
Right.
Just learn a few chord progressions and sing a Billy Corgan lyric here." And so he was saying this, and he's a good guy, he really is. And he said, I said, the way I feel when I'm starting to write my own music, I said, I just really like being honest and real. I just want songs to be how they are in this moment. Like, this is the way I actually feel today. Like, I'd broken up with a girlfriend, or a girlfriend broken up with me. I said, this is exactly how I feel. And I don't know when it's going to get better. So I just want to leave it there. He's like, "Man," he said, I love that. I love your honesty. He said, "Here's what you need to do. When you write that song and those honest lyrics, and you talk about brokenness and your heart breaking and what it's going to be like, just make sure at the very end of the song, you just say that Jesus makes it better." And I was like, "What?" And I immediately realized, I was like, "Oh, this guy doesn't care about music at all. He's not thinking about cool chord progressions or the way the lyrics flow or melody or anything. He literally could care less. And he's giving me musical advice, but it's only this idea of reaching people or whatever it might be." So from that moment on, I was a little bit wary immediately of anything labeled Christian, but I couldn't deny that I'm a Christian and I wanted to honor God. Right. So we did. I was fine if people pretty much called us Christians in a band or bands in a Christian. It didn't really matter, because people will say anything about you anyway. They'll say anything about whatever you create. I'm sure you make movies and stuff. People will say bad stuff or good stuff no matter what. Right. It just doesn't matter. You can't avoid it. When you put something out into the ether and into the world, somebody's going to criticize it and say you're dumb or stupid or whatever, or they're going to say, "Oh, well, this is too Christian," or "This isn't Christian enough," or another thing about this or another thing about that. It's just that stuff's really frustrating to me, because it doesn't matter, because those people aren't really saying they care about the song. They're doing some idea of what they think you should be or your music should be. And so that's why it does. To me, it didn't matter as much. We were labeled, being with Tooth and Nail, though, there was no escaping it either. Right. I mean, Tooth and Nail was considered and was a Christian label, the edge Christian label, Right. And so being associated with them, there was no way of getting out of it. And so we just had to be what we were.
Sure. So do you regret signing to Tooth and Nail? Do you regret getting lumped into that category at all? Because, obviously do you deny that it gave you maybe a little bit of a leg up, because, the Christian market, the kids will eat it up whether it's good or not. Not that it wasn't, but,
100%. It definitely did. It for sure. Tooth and Nail at the time had a built-in audience of Christians looking for music that they could like. Because that was what was one thing that's really cool, is we were able to create music that we wanted. They didn't tell us what to write, what to do, for kids whose parents a lot of times wouldn't even let them listen to anything. You know, they wanted to listen.
Parents.
Exactly. My parents wouldn't either. I remember when a friend of mine gave me Appetite for Destruction with Guns N' Roses, and my brother Slippery When Wet, Bon Jovi. And we just sat around and listened to it for like a week. And my mom came up and said, listen, this is just bad. You can't listen to this. She had never even heard of it, but she just heard something that was sexually innuendo or scary or welcome to the jungle. We got fun, you know. Right. And I was like, wait a minute, but this is so, I don't even know why I like it yet. I'm young. I don't even know. I'm just a kid. I don't even know why I like it, but I'm just trying to figure it out. And she took that away. So I do think it's awesome that there's a band like Emery. Maybe there's other bands that your parents wouldn't listen to, but I do, like you said, I actually do think we're a good band. I really believe in our band. I wouldn't create our music if we didn't. And so it's cool that was a gateway for those kids to maybe actually listen to some music that could challenge them, or they could go, what is this? Why are they screaming and singing? Why is this so heavy? Why is this part so soft? You know, I've never heard music like this. I thought that was a really awesome thing. And then, yeah, of course, that built-in audience helped Emery a lot. And so I would say it helped us more than it hurt us, for sure. The big hurts were we got big enough to be an important band in the scene, and bands would want to take us out, but they were always scared we were going to preach from the stage.
Right.
We got that all the time. So many bands, they would say, listen, you guys can't preach from the stage. We're not going to. Don't worry. You do not. We just want to play this music that we wrote and have a good time. You don't have to worry about it, but a lot of bands were, because they thought it'll be a buzzkill for their show. You don't want the main support band bringing the whole crowd down preaching, out of John 2 or something like that. So, that hurt us a little bit, even though we had the record sales and everything. A lot of bands wanted to stay away from us because, like, I ain't getting into that Christian stuff.
All right. Do you feel like there was any kind of a cap there because you were a Christian band? I mean, it kind of gave you a quick leg up and got you going faster than maybe secular bands were able to at the time that have a broader spectrum to compete with. But do you feel like having that title on you made it so you could only get to a certain level of credibility and slowed you down later on?
I guess if I had to say no, I think people, like I said, from the beginning, we just wanted to write honest lyrics and be ourselves. And I think that conveyed in the music. So that's what I think is kind of cool. I think people believe that. There's a lot of bands that didn't get as big as us on Tooth and Nail, and there's a lot of bands that got bigger. Mm-hmm. And so I don't necessarily think it held us back. If it did hold us back, it was the fans not liking a certain direction we were taking, right, or something like that. Or are they still Christian? In the beginning, we used to say, hey, we love Jesus. And then I realized I was just saying it for those Christian folks in the crowd to go, hey, yeah, man, we do love Jesus. Team Jesus. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want that. I'm saying I love Jesus because I actually do. And wait a minute, this is just some real weird club thing where everybody else is, kind of left out. So why am I doing this? This isn't the right time. This isn't sharing the gospel. It's actually pushing some people away and making other people feel really confident in our team. So I didn't like that. And a lot of people said, you used to talk about Jesus, now you don't. And and no one that wasn't a Christian or ever asked me that. And so it wasn't a thing where anybody ever thought it was something important except for Christians. So I would say some people they thought maybe we're less Christian now. They still do. I mean, even with our podcast Bad Christian, what are y'all doing? And we
Christian in the title, but
Yeah, exactly. We always just felt like you got to be honest in who you are. And if you could, if I want to be who I am on stage, I want to be who I am on the microphone in all situations, try as closely as I can be to my real self. And that'll be better. Even if it doesn't make us as much money or we're not as popular or whatever it might be, it will be better. I will enjoy it more.
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't allowed to listen to most music. If it wasn't specifically labeled Christian, can't listen to it. Even bands like Creed or, spiritual bands, couldn't listen to them because why read the lyrics and find out what they're talking about? They're not Christian, so they're not good. And, if it has a Christian label on it, they're good, clean, wholesome humans and no cussing, no talking about sex, right? It's a good thing, podcasting wasn't a thing back then. Otherwise, my parents might have had a little bit of a harder time, weeding these things out.
Oh, I know. That's 100%. It's interesting. Now, I don't know how parents I have 3 small kids, but I don't know how we'll stop them from listening to stuff. It's just everything's so accessible now.
Right.
Like we used to, convince our parents to let us buy a little bit of music here and there every once in a while. We go to Kmart. I don't know if where are you from? Michigan? Is that
Illinois.
Right? Illinois.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all had Kmarts up there or not.
We do. They're closing rapidly for the better.
We go to Kmart and get to buy a tape or a B-side or an A-side, just like a single. And same thing. It took a lot to get music and entertainment and content. Now it doesn't. So it's gonna be way harder to control that for sure. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. So I mean, where do you see like the Christian music scene or the Christian entertainment scene right now? Does it have a place? Does it have a value, or should it all just blend in with everything else?
I think the thing that bothers me or concerns me, I guess, about Christian music is, and I was a worship leader at 2 separate mega churches. And, we'd sing all the Hillsong songs or we'd sing old hymns or whatever. But the thing about Christian music is it's different. Like, for example, all those bands we've been talking about or whatever, when I first heard a Guns N' Roses song or Smashing Pumpkins or whatever, Foo Fighters song, I was able to decide if I liked it or not. And then if I liked it, I was able to break it down and think about it and wrestle with it a little bit and actually figure out, what did they sing? What are they doing? Oh, this part's neat. Oh, now I remember this part. It comes natural and I'm singing the chorus with them or whatever. Right. With Christian music, it's supposed to immediately inspire you to worship God. Right. And you don't have a moment to go, this song sucks. It sucks. It's not even smart. It's not good. It's silly in some ways. And if we could do that, if we could be a little bit more critical of Christian music, I think it would blend in and it would be more real. Then you would have not just, a lot of artists, like you were saying, like with Tooth and Nails, we got a boost. A lot of Christian artists get boost just because they're talking about God. Same way as politics. A politician talks about God because it sure does help with the votes and the constituents. And so for me, I guess, I wish it could just be music. I wish all of it could be music, but like we said before, everybody's going to say something about music or label you as some genre or label you in general. And so I wish it could be a little bit more authentic. I wish there were musicians that were really pushing the envelope, and I know there are, and they're not getting as much airplay or whatever it might be. And not all of it is horrible. There's even songs on CCM radio that are probably pretty good. It just feels a little gross. Like it's business, it's formulaic, and you're supposed to worship God with it.
Right. It's supposed to be the most wholesome, but it's the most capitalized money-making spectrum of Christian music in general is the worship stuff.
Exactly. And it just proves all those people, they just like that pastor that talked to me when I was in college, they don't care about music.
Right.
They don't care about it at all. They don't care about anything. It's so formulaic that here's the swell and, oh no, this is God moving me. This is why I feel excited. No, that's just how a big chorus comes in. Do, 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 da. Of course you're going to feel a little something. It's loud. They're pumping it through this awesome sound system. They probably spent who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars on. Right. Instead of giving it to Guatemala or something, you got to kick out, stereo systems, speaker system and all that stuff. And so I think
the Lord moves through a kick-ass sound system. You know that.
Right, exactly. You got to have that. Thank God we're able to create that technology, sound systems and lasers and smoke shows at churches and stuff like that. Because otherwise, but it just is a formula. And pop music in general is a formula. A lot of songs. Even some of the Emery songs are formulaic. I'm not saying that's even a bad thing, but it's so much so now that you just know. You just know the song immediately, and it's nothing that you wrestle with or care about, and it doesn't leave you with questions. Or if it does leave you with questions, there's no way to ask those questions or answer them. It's just, God is good. Oh, my life is broken. It's so bad. I'm a terrible person. God is good. He's so awesome. He'll make my life better. Is everybody just miserable? Like, what kind of God do we serve if every damn song is about how broken we all are? Good. Is God that bad?
And this is from a guy who started a classic emo screamo band back in the day. You're like, right, why are these worship songs so damn depressing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what's your take on we see some of these formerly Christian bands, like one example is As I Lay Dying, where, they made their name as a Christian metal band. And then, the whole case aside, just him saying now, I was an atheist, but, we were making bank off of it. So we kept going with it. What's your take on that? Do you think that is prevalent? Do you think that happens a lot in the Christian scene?
I know for a fact lots of famous Christian singers and bands have to hide a lot. They just do. I mean, that's their way they make their living. That's how they earn income. And so they can't be too loose and open and honest because somebody will lose their job. Same way with pastors. I mean, if a pastor has starts questioning certain things or just doubting here or there or whatever it might be, he can't tell his congregation because that's the end of his job. And what he's been doing that for 15 years. What's he going to go to a warehouse and work?
Right.
Will he even get a job? Can he? I mean, he might not even get a warehouse job. It might be maybe work at Uber or something like that. But it's strange that Christian music and Christianity in general is supposed to be about openness and forgiveness and God forgiving us, and then we forgive others. But it seems so often the opposite of that. Like even like with Tim from As I Lay Dying. I mean, how bizarre is it that he said he was a Christian, and then got so far off that then I think it's a little lame to blame atheism or attach that with wanting to murder your wife. That seems a little bizarre. I know a lot of atheists. Most of them are pretty awesome. They're
all homicidal maniacs. What are you talking about?
As soon as you give up God, you immediately murder.
Hey, if you watch God's Not Dead, that's what you would assume. So
exactly. That movie makes atheists just seem like the most hateful, worst people on earth. You don't believe in God, you can't even be nice.
Right.
You just are a mean asshole. But it's funny that Christianity is supposed to be so open, so honest, and you just can't even be like I was saying with Tim, so much so that he got that far off to where it even led to attempted murder.
Right.
And so if anybody along the way could have just maybe talked to him, or he could have been a little bit more honest, or what if he could have just said, "Damn, my wife is an asshole. I can't stand her." He can't say that because, Tim, that's not right, man.
Right.
Come on, God is good, bro. Well, let's go lift some weights and then go worship. Like, wait a minute, can't for one day you think your wife's an asshole? Can't your wife think you're an asshole or something? Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, can't we at least be honest and sometimes even sinfully, even wrongfully, get it out? Like, if you can do that, you would stop the way worse sin down the road or whatever it might be, so that you could actually maybe be free. You might could actually be redeemed. You go, wait, man, I was thinking my wife was just a terrible person, and you know what? I did this, and I did this, and I did this. Oh, I probably helped her get there. Yeah, she's still a jerk sometimes, and so am I, but maybe we could work on that. That would be something we could address, as opposed to keep it in, don't talk about it, turn inward, keep the persona, and don't be the real person. Everybody wants to project this idea of who they think they are, and the truth is way, way different.
Absolutely. And
hey, sorry if I'm cussing on here. I don't know if you have cussing on your podcast.
I bleep it out usually, but I really don't care at all.
Sorry about it. I'll try and tame it in.
No, it's all good. Speaking of cussing, what's up with all these Christian bands these days? I mean, one after another, just peppering in one F-bomb here and there. Just gotta. I mean, I have no problem with it at all. I think it's kind of funny that some of them they're just kind of towing the line and they're testing the water with just one word in this album, maybe two in the next one, and you see one band after another like, can we say these words now? Is this acceptable in Christian music? And of course the Christian listeners are freaking the fuck out about it.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think that is an example of bands finally wanting to be free, and some bands, I won't name any names, some bands do it really well and some bands do it very poorly. And it's like I hate it when a cuss word is used just for effect. At the same time, you use cuss words for effect. When you stub your toe and you say a cuss word, that is the best word to possibly use. That's why, just even phonetically and how hard it is, everything about it, that's why we use those words sometimes to really do expression. I think it can be well done. And then I think sometimes it's just like, okay, I get it. This doesn't make your band harder or more authentic or more real.
You get it. You're grown-ups now. Good job.
We've asked the question several times. Do we want to say a bad word? Do we want to do something here and there? I don't think we ever have.
Yeah.
I don't know if we will. There's a chance. I won't get into too many details. We'll be talking about. I guess it doesn't really matter. But like our new record, a lot of the lyrics are going to be. It's going to be talking about that persona, that we put up and what's actually behind it, the darkness behind it, and how we can't question. We like the church I grew up in, you just couldn't ask questions. This is what God is, and that's it. And you are this way, this way, this way. And we're just I guess all the songs are going to kind of be like stories and questions in a way. I wouldn't say it's a question, but just touching on those things that you're not supposed to talk about or were definitely sins or bad. So I did have this idea. So this song isn't written, but I did have this idea of writing a song with cuss words in it, but just kind of saying, oh, these are the words I can't say. Like I can't say shit. I can't say hell, so I'm not saying it. I'm saying it in a way.
Well,
So
I wish I could say shit, and I can't say shit.
Or if I say shit, you'll stop listening to this song. That's kind of the idea of it. You know what I mean?
That's great.
So I don't know if I'm going to do that one or not. Because if I did it, I'd want it to be in a good way that was interesting and not jokey or silly. I'd want it to be real. So I don't know if that'll happen or not. That's one loose idea. So I think a little bit of it's just born out of so much suppression of everything that now you're like, well, man, let me at least say one cuss word on here. Sure was cool when I saw that band when I was 8 and they said, look, give me a hell yeah. And you were like, hell yeah.
Right.
It felt so empowering for a moment. I think a lot of younger dudes are putting that in now, like just to feel a little bit of that raw energy.
Sure. Yeah. So what is it that has prevented you from doing it to now or at all? Is it just because it doesn't have to be there, and if you're not feeling like it has to be there? I mean, obviously you cuss in your regular life. Do you feel like there's a authenticity that's lacking if you're not using the same language that you would use in real life?
No, and mainly because in the beginning when we were on Tooth and Nail, they did not want you to cuss. So if we had a cuss word, they would have asked us to take it out. We never did.
Yeah.
And I, even back then, I was, a little bit more careful with my language just because I was still young and my parents and family, I wanted them to be impressed and think what I'm doing is good and all that stuff. And I just didn't feel like we needed it. I felt like even if I'd have put a cuss word, it'd have been weird. It's funny. On the song, The Butcher's Mouth, we had to name it that because we did that song. And then one of the lyrics is, says the butcher's mouth, but I guess it was my Southern accent or whatever. Our A&R guy goes, hey, man, we got to do something about that lyric. This might've been the last album we put out with Tooth and Nail, or second to last, actually. We got to do something about that. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, you say the butcher's mouth. I was like, no, the butcher's mouth. And I was like, we'll just name the song that so everybody knows in case my accent messes butchers that. Or bitches it. So yeah, we never did. I mean, if it felt right, a lot of times I feel like I'm just finding the song, like it's out there. And if I can hunt and search and figure it out, I'll find a song more than me personally writing it. Mm-hmm. And so if something came along, it's not off the table, but I like the idea also of, you being a 16-year-old kid and liking Emery. I like it if you still did. And it's still some of that. We still have some of that from back then. I kind of like keeping that. Like I would love, I've said it a million times, but I would love it if Weezer wrote Pinkerton every single record or something. I'm okay with that. That's that album meant so much to me and it changed me musically and all this stuff that like I just like that. So I like it when a band still sounds like the band and it's even though we're progressing and changing, but it's still Emery at its core. So maybe that's even a little bit of me nostalgia and just saying, I can probably say a different word than that maybe, but you never know.
Yeah. And I'm sure that, everybody on YouTube screaming in the comments about some of these bands that are peppering in some language like King's Kaleidoscope, Classic Crime, Under Oath, John Rubin, all these people. Everybody's saying, oh, they sold out because they're going to make so much more money now. It's like, really? Cutting your fan base off at the knees is going to make you make more money? Explain to me how that works.
You're exactly right. How could that ever work? I promise you, if cussing made you money, every musician would have a million cuss words in their song. It does not work that way at all. It just doesn't. Like with King's Kaleidoscope, we've worked with them now for a while and know them. I was at the same church as Chad, King's Kaleidoscope's lead singer. He was at Mars Hill. I was there too as a worship leader. We're both worship leaders. I think the way they did it was really authentic and real and awesome. Like I really appreciated that vulnerability there. Like that was taking a chance. That wasn't to make money. That wasn't so the secular people would like them. Because I mean, all the songs are about God. A lot of them are just straight up worship songs. I mean, it's not like you're going to win somebody. Hey, man, this is a Christian, but they said one bad word on the whole record. I got to buy this thing. That doesn't. You're exactly right. It does not work that way. I think when a band like that does it and it's vulnerable and real and it fits the music so perfectly, that's when it's impressive. I'm like, whoa, they took a real musical chance there, a real artistic chance. And that's pretty cool to do that because it did affect them financially, negatively. They got kicked off of Creation Fest, I think it was. Maybe it wasn't. One of the festivals down in California said, no, you have a cuss word in your songs. You can't come in. So, I mean, it cost them a decent amount of money and just for saying one little word, which is very frustrating. It's just very frustrating, meaning nobody cares about the reason they cared about King's Kaleidoscope only is because of how many records they sold. They didn't really care about the lyrics or anything until they heard this one lyric and then they remember it forever. Right. But tell me the other lyrics. Anybody that's talking bad about King's Kaleidoscope, tell me their other lyrics and you'll see immediately how powerful, how they are worshiping and singing about God. That's real. One word does not take that away.
Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears, and I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, well, podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay. So, new bands coming out now, like people who are starting bands, do you recommend going the Christian route to get that boost? Do you recommend, just, making your music and seeing where it lands?
Making your music and see where it lands. I think that. I mean, the truth is you can sing about anything on earth, and if it's something you do care about or a story you want to tell or something you feel passionate about, then it might actually be good. I mean, you do need some talent. You do need some skills. You need a work ethic. You need to try hard. You need some breaks, some lucky breaks and things to happen. But overall, I think you stand a way better chance of being real. We were talking about this yesterday. That movie, what was it called? A Quiet Place? Is that what it's called? The new scary movie? Yep. That movie is getting super popular and probably doing way better than anybody thought just because it's good. Right. It might actually be good. So they could have done multi-million-dollar special. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know anything. I think John Krasinski wrote it and maybe directed it. I'm not sure, but he just made a hell of a movie, and that's why it's doing really good. You can do a lot of things if you just be authentic, write what you care about, create something that you're passionate about. That's way more than falling into a genre or copying another band or making sure your music is accessible enough to where you can make a living at it. That's not even to say that that's that bad. If you want to get into music to make a living at it and you do it and you enjoy it, that's okay too. But I think if you want to make music that you'll still like tomorrow and the next day and the next day, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be real, whatever the subject is about.
Sure. Do you think it's morally wrong for a band to go down the Christian route because it is a quick moneymaker?
I don't know. And also, I don't know if it's a quick money maker anymore. I know when we started,
family Christian stores went bankrupt, so it might not be as easy as it used to be.
I think, yes, it's definitely locked down a lot. Back in the day, it was a little bit easier because you could, even if you were a no-name band, if you were if the kids at your church liked you, you probably could play at another church and you got enough word around where you can maybe do a church tour or something like that. And It's easier. It might still be. I'm so far removed from that, but it might still be easier because parents like dropping their kids off at a church where it's safe. Those Christian guys on the stage are going to be safe and good and lead our kid to Christ. And all that stuff. And so that's why it was easier to make money. And when we played a few churches, we did like one tour early on, and it was mostly all churches. And I promise you, we were a nothing, man. This was before we were signed or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the churches treated us amazingly well. Like, I mean, they had super nice green rooms with tons of food. I think we got like $200 or $300 guarantees, which is huge when you're a nothing band.
Right.
I mean, that is amazing. They put us up in on top of that. It was like always 2 hotel rooms. I mean, they just, all you had to do is make sure, we were on tour with a band called Number One Gun. I don't know if you remember them. They were on for a little while. All you had to make sure was nobody saw you smoking. You had to hide that or drinking or anything like that. And then just make sure maybe you said something about God or stop your show and play behind the pastor when he came up and did his little 10-minute thing. It was so weird and awkward.
Or pray on stage before you go up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, so they could see you.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say I mean, it might work. I mean, if you just want to, if you like it and that's your world, definitely go for it. But I would say it's probably better to get popular, in your town at bars and real shows, right. DIY shows and stuff, more than that, because the church will just eventually try to shape your band and you won't have as much control as you'd like.
Right. But not to push back here, the question was, morally, do you think it's wrong for them to get into that for the money? Whether there's money or not, do you think that that's a bad motivator or dishonest?
I would say, me personally, I don't know if it's morally wrong, because you get into, digging ditches for the money. You get into
right.
Being a doctor a lot for the money. I mean, you might care about it for sure and have passion, but if you like playing the guitar and you're like, man, if I could do this for a living, I'll go this way. I don't care where I'm at or what I'm doing, as long as I can play this guitar. That's okay. And I know some dudes in Christian bands that are like that. They're like, man, I make a good living and I get to play the guitar. I don't care. You know what I mean? Same way as an actor.
What about like the vocalist or lyricist who's like presenting it as a Christian thing when he's not? Or even like a pastor. If there was a pastor who got into it for the money and was like, I can make some pastor money even though I'm an atheist.
Well, I always said an atheist should definitely do that. Like an atheist, if you want a solid gig, because there's a lot of really smart, well-spoken atheists, why not just say, I'm a Christian and man, here's the sermon, and people would even enjoy it. I mean, I guess you got me here. I do think it's morally wrong. It's not good to do that. And you wouldn't be able to keep it up anyway. Eventually you'd feel terrible. But the same way is, I don't know if, a famous actor definitely takes irritable bowel syndrome medication, but he might do a commercial for it, and get paid for that commercial really well, even though he's like, well, I don't really take this or do this or whatever. Right. Sometimes you do something just for the job. And I think it's a little bit, more of a gray area than that. A lot of times people get into bands and then they're flung into that. Right. And then you have, people calling you out saying, oh, you're not Christian. I thought you're a Christian, but you're just like, man, I just played a band and all y'all came. And so it just kept going. What am I supposed to do? I mean, at what point was I supposed to sit down with everybody and say, this is where I'm at or whatever? It's a little bit grayer than that. And then you find yourself a month, 6 months, a year, several years into it. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm a different person, but I've been on stage this whole time. And now if I say I'm a different person, it's going to get weird. So it's hard to just say those things or be real.
Sure. Absolutely.
So morally, though, you're probably right. It's not, I wouldn't recommend it.
Sure. Yeah. And again, there's not necessarily a guarantee there anymore like there used to be. So who cares? Do your own thing. But
well, how about
what's that?
Let me turn the tables on you here. Would you, if there was a guy that you knew was an atheist and he was, maybe had a dark, hidden life, dual life or something, and he was a pastor, but he said, hey man, I want you to come film me do this, and here's $10,000. Morally, that he's not a good dude, but it'd be hard to turn that down because you love making film, right?
That's right. That's a good point. Yep. Yeah, you got me.
I probably would tell you to do it.
Well, yeah. Sneaking some hidden messages about like his real life into the video.
Like he's talking and you have his like internet history pulled up on the screen behind him. I think right there. I'm sorry, man.
Absolutely. Well, we got to talk about this documentary that you guys are working on. Tell me how this got started, because this is the best title that I've ever heard for anything ever. It's What Would Jesus Sell? Did you guys come up with this kick-ass title and say, hey, we got to make something with this title because it's such a good title? Or did you actually intend to make a documentary?
I think the title came after the idea. We just kind of like some of the stuff we've been talking about. We know so many people that have been, burnt by the Christian music industry that James Whiteman has filmed. He's filmed like a lot of the Emery videos and stuff like that. He's in Illinois too. He's in Chicago. I don't know if y'all have ever met or not, but he's done a lot of stuff with us. And so he got some footage, and we were like, James, if you this could be a good idea, we'll let you run with it. What do you think here? What do you want to film? So he did some stuff, and then it kind of died. I mean, we had this idea for a while, probably even a few years now. But he started putting stuff together, and I'm not sure who came up with the title, but because it wasn't me, but it might have been James or Matt McDonald. I'm not really sure, but everybody got together and said, oh, this could be good. And so James worked really hard and got that trailer together of just some of the, bits and pieces that he got. And it just kind of was born. And we we're like, oh, okay, well, this is a real thing. This could be a good story. And what's really neat is since then too, so many more musicians and people have said, hey, I mean, we've gotten lots of emails and phone calls of, hey, I'd love to interview for that. I'd love to be in that film because I got some stuff to say. I'm like, whoa, that's real cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it like? What's the plan for it? Is it going to be like a tell-all behind the scenes look at how Christian industry works, or what?
I think it'll be right now kind of like a little bit of a storyline of how we got to where we're at and what it is. I'm wondering how many current or more recent Christian artists. I don't know. Will we stay in just the rock side? Mm-hmm. A lot of those folks might be older now and more willing to talk. I don't know if you could get, big CCM artists totally to talk, but there's a few that probably will. But so we'll see. But I'm thinking we'll just say how kind of the storyline. How did we get here? How did music? Because I mean, even if you go back a little bit, even like to the 90s and 80s and stuff like that, Christian music, it wasn't necessarily called Christian music. There was still big focus on hymns and stuff like that. And Christian radio, it was a little bit different. I mean, there was some of the soft rock stuff, but there was, some more real music and real things happening and some cool stuff, I think. And then it kind of became more formulaic and everything kind of sounds a lot the same. And so I think we'll kind of talk from that standpoint to all the way to today, and then just lots and lots of interviews. And you're just going to hear real stories of artists who, had to do certain things or be a certain way or had to hide or couldn't tell the truth here, or experiences they had in green rooms or on stage or whatever it might be. You're going to hear a lot of that behind the scenes stuff that you never got to hear, but probably always figured was true, but just no one's ever brave enough or able to tell you the truth.
Or the fans believed that it wasn't true and they never wanted to hear this side of the thing.
Right.
So are you able to say like some of the people that got involved with this, like some of the artists that you got?
I don't know. I might keep that on the DL a little bit. We'll probably be announcing it more. Some are scheduled and some are done, but the problem too is I wouldn't want to say, and it got edited, even though there might be a killer name out there. What if they got edited or it wasn't good or they didn't really say anything? Sometimes you get somebody go, I'm ready to talk. And then you're like, oh, they didn't say anything.
They come on, they say, it was great. I made a whole lot of money and sitting pretty.
Or they say, yeah, there was one time where, somebody said something and I was like, no, man, that's not my Jesus. And you're like, okay, dude, get out of here. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. So is the documentary, is it unbiased? Are you taking an unbiased approach to it? Like, are you showing people who are, is it all skeptics, or is it all people that had bad issues with the Christian scene, or are there people on both sides?
I would say it's probably biased. Yeah. I don't know. That's a good point. We've tossed that idea around too, of people who had a good go at Christian music. But the problem with that is it kind of muddles the story because there always will be good and bad.
Right.
And so for the most part, the story you've always been given is the good side. Oh man, there's a couple people that had a rough break, or they got divorced, or had a little bit of a drug problem, but overall Christian music's good and it's for the Lord. So I think this will probably be focused on that side you don't really get to hear about, where somebody really did feel hidden, or couldn't be themselves, or open and honest, or it became a career and they were like, wait a minute, this is also a belief system that I'm struggling with, or and I think that'll be really good. I really do. I want to hear those stories. And a lot of people have come on the Bad Christian podcast even and talked about that stuff. Some of their experiences with fans turning on them, or what that might be. And so I think it'll be good to hear those stories in a real way, because most of the people too enjoyed their music and enjoyed the fans. And it's not like they hated everything. They didn't hate the people. They didn't hate the music. They didn't even hate the environment. It was just this weird vibe of inauthenticity that just kept people like, oh, I can't be real. I have to be this way or else.
Right. Absolutely. So where are you guys at in like the process of making this? Are you guys well into it, or is it still just kind of getting started?
Well, we got there's been lots of interviews, but there's a ton more that has to be. So I mean, I would say 25% through. And once you get all the interviews, as you know, then there's tons of editing and music and placement and all that stuff. So there is a lot of work to be done. I'm sure it'll be at least a year probably to get everything totally done. I mean, maybe not. James is, working on it, and hopefully I think he has a good plan of what to do and who to ask. And like I said, people are calling us, but it takes a while to make something like this and make it real. So we did that Kickstarter for it, Indiegogo, I think maybe. And it worked well. And people, that's what's cool is, people are kind of excited about if they'll put their money there and put money into it. So I'm excited to see it too, because I don't know how to make films or anything. I'd love to, and I want to get maybe better at that. I'm like I was telling you, I got my green screen behind me just trying to learn how to do that. And I'm terrible at it. I'd like to get better at making little videos and stuff. I'd like for even Bad Christian Podcast to do more video content. So I'm excited just about the process, and maybe I can be around and, see what James does and see where it goes, and maybe even be a part of some of the interviews and stuff like that. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, with all this stuff that you do with Emery, with Matt and Toby, with Bad Christian, and Song Rescue?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you consider any of these things a form of the bad word ministry?
No, I don't like that word, I guess. It puts a lot of pressure on you to be a certain way that other people think. I think when you say ministry, everybody has a preconceived notion of what that is. And so it's hard to do, even if you're being creative and you're doing a homeless ministry, or you're doing a water ministry, whatever it might be. When you add the word ministry to it, it can't just be about helping people with water or helping them. It has to be also, you have to throw in about Jesus, and you have to do this, and you have to do this, which should be evident in helping people. Right. That should be evident. If you're helping somebody and you think you should do that because God asks us to, and to care about your neighbor, it will be evident in that. You don't have to also proselytize and force your religion on somebody, because then it becomes a little bit of a bait and switch. Here, I'm going to give you this water, but also you might want to consider my God as your God. You're like, well, this is a bottle of water, dude. I'm thirsty. Let's start there. So I think with us, I think Joey on our podcast, Bad Christian, does think of it as a ministry, but he is a pastor, right? Straight to the heart, all the way to his heart. He's a pastor. And so I think he thinks of it that way. I think of it as entertainment, challenging. Hopefully I would like to honor God with it. I hope we're honoring God with it. I hope that we're wrestling with God and asking questions and being ourselves, and that God would get glory out of it. I do want that. But yeah, I don't know if I'd want to call it a ministry.
Sure. Well, you can't deny that you're an influencer for sure. Do you have any concern that you are going the wrong way and ruining people's lives in the future?
Yes, for sure. Being an influencer, I think we are. I don't like using that word. It makes me feel a little bit boastful or something, but sure. We probably are influencing people at least to ask questions, or to think differently, or to even argue with us, while they're listening to us through their headphones or something like that. Yeah, I think so. There's tons of times where I'm thinking, oh man, what will happen, 10 years from now? if our podcast is still around and decently popular, what's my daughter going to think or my son going to think? What if I created a world for them that's not as stable? Like, I mean, I at least knew who God was. At least I thought growing up, this is what God is. He's, vengeful and strong. He does love you and he'll save you from hell. But this is it. And even though a lot of God was scary for me, at least I had a little bit of foundation. I feel like now I'm less on foundation and more on pursuing and that journey and trying to find what is truth. And so I want to instill that in people, and I could be wrong. I mean, mega churches could be doing it exactly right, and God's called them to do exactly what they're doing, and I'm wrong. Maybe I think I'm, being honest and open and maybe even hearing from God, and it's just, Satan himself tricking everybody. It could be true. Right, but sure. I'd at least rather be honest that there's a chance of that. I don't think so, but I'd rather be honest about that than say, no, it's definitely God. I saw God and he said that the Bad Christian Podcast is Jesus, stamped it and said, this is good. No, that feels fake.
Yeah, absolutely. So future prospects for the band. Do you see any ending point for this thing, or are you just going to ride that wave until the sun sets?
Yeah, I'll probably ride it till it sunsets because it just keeps on working. Like, we're going on a tour here in June. So we break up our tours now in like week to 2 week stints. So we're not gone from our families, and we've got so many other gigs and jobs. It's hard to stay gone for 6 weeks at a time. I don't even think we could physically do it. It'd wear us out. But it's going great. I mean, we're getting great guarantees and we're making money. I mean, we do it because we love it and it's fun, and we got a new record and we like our music, and I love being on tour with the guys. But I mean, it really is an income. Like, it works. So that's pretty cool. Like, if it didn't make any money, I couldn't look my wife in the eyes and say, yeah, I'm going to be gone riding around the country for a week. I'll be back and we'll be in debt $100. That's not going to work.
What would get you better guarantees? You started cussing in your music, man. That would.
You're right. Why didn't I think of that? Man, all the atheists would come. That's right. Just a bunch of atheists show up.
You might not want them around, though, because they're all murderers. So
You're right. The mosh pit would just be blood.
Most hardcore mosh pit ever.
That's what's funny. Atheists don't hang out with Christians, really, or Christians don't hang out with atheists. So atheists are so bad they even kill each other. You think they leave to go Christians or something? Those atheists turn on each other immediately when they forsake our God.
Right. Well, Toby, it's been a pleasure, and I don't want to keep you all day, but tell everybody where they can find out more about you, about the podcast, about the documentary, about your bands, and everything that you got going on.
Yeah, you can pretty much find out everything at badchristian.com. You can go to, I think, Emery Music, or find us on Facebook with Emery. Yeah, I really do like my new podcast with Devin, the other singer, is called Song Rescue, where we crash on people's music. They send in their songs, and we tear them up and give them compliments and encouragement, and also tell them all the things they're doing wrong, and then give them a few tips. That's a fun podcast to do for sure. You can go to songrescue.com. And I think the site for the movie is whatwouldjesussell.com, but I might be wrong about that. But either way, you can go to badchristian.com and find out.
Sure. How about the bands? Are they all through the Bad Christian stuff?
Yeah, they're there too. Our podcasts, music, everything is pretty much run through that.
Oh, by the way, I shot a music video for you that still has not been released.
Oh, so that's right. No, I thought it was. I sent it to Matt and Reva. Did they not put it out?
I don't know. They might have, and I missed it.
Maybe I missed it. I thought they put it out. If not, we'll put it out. I think I still have it. Resend it to me, and I'll send it to them in all caps. Put this out.
I will. And when you put it out, maybe we'll release it in conjunction with this episode as well, so people can go check that out. Yep. Well, cool, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed it. And if you ever want to come on again, you're more than welcome anytime, sir.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Thanks, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and always do. And as was mentioned, as I snuck it in there, you might have caught that. I threw it in there at the end. I actually filmed a music video for Toby's band. It was not a planned music video. It's for his side project called Matt and Toby that he does with Matt Carter. And basically what happened was I went and saw them at a festival, and I just had my camera gear and filmed their set, and then I made a music video out of it, including a storyline which stars a very handsome gentleman by the name of me, just because nobody else would volunteer to do it. But if you guys want to check that out, I'll include it on the website in the show notes at tsidpod.com. So go check that out. The band, again, is called Matt and Toby, and the song is called Pastor Stopped By. And I would also recommend that you go check out their other stuff, their main band, Emery. Check out the podcast, Bad Christian. I highly endorse both of them. And again, if you guys would like to come talk to me, come talk to a lot of the guests that we've had on the show, you can do so by joining the System Is Down forum, currently on Facebook. Just type in The System Is Down forum, or if it is not there and you can't find it, just go to tsidpod.com/forum. And if you'd like to join the Downers Club and support this show, help us keep growing this thing, help us keep getting bigger and better guests, more entertaining stuff. It's only going to benefit you. You also get a bunch of bonus content every single week. You can do that by going to tsidpod.com/support. And all of these links will be in the show notes and the show description and all that stuff. So if I'm talking too fast, if you can't understand what I'm saying, go check it out there. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the social media stuff. Go like, share, subscribe, do all the stuff that millennials do. And please just go tell somebody about the show this week. Tell a new friend about the show or a new enemy about the show, especially if you didn't like the show. Tell an enemy. Tell them you're going to love this and then watch them come and hate it or whatever. Just tell somebody about the show. I'd really appreciate it. And please go to iTunes and leave us a happy review and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode and you help us boost our credibility, boost our numbers. Bigger, better. It's what we're always looking for, right? Yeah. Anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for listening. And if you'll have me, I'll be right back here first thing next Monday, back inside your ears with some more uncomfortable content. Until then, question everything and stay uncomfortable. Thanks.
This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.